So tonight topic is about true self and ego. So this is the two aspects of what we can be in life. We need identity. We cannot live without an identity. Uh, when I say identity, the representation I have of myself, the image I have of myself, how do I consider myself, the conscious of who I am, because according to my consideration of who I am, I will act, I will express, I will create my purpose, my aim, my way of life, and obviously it will impact me so much. So it's always better to know precisely myself so that I will give the right direction to my life. Obviously, you are in Bradford and it's the country of Shakespeare. So obviously, I'm sure that not even one English or person living in England will not know the famous expression "to be or not to be." And as Shakespeare says, that is the question. So yeah, ego and true self. The thing is, what is interesting is how many times we say I, in our daily life, I think, I go, I did, I experience, I want, I desires, I speak, I did this, I have my memories. So, I is a reality. And what is interesting is everyone in the world said the same expression to define themselves, I. But I is not enough to tell about who I am. But what also is interesting, we use the expression me. And I and me, I will say there is the slightest big difference. Because me is who I am in this life. I is, let's say, the eternal I, the original I, the imperishable I, the I which I will always be. So the me is perishable, and that is why we connect me with mine, my house, my wife, my money, so it belongs to me, Michel. But it's much more than Michel, because Michel is just for this lifetime. And okay, after Michel, whatever it is, according to each one, knowledge and spirituality, but yes, the I will say survive, keep on, in one way or the others, and it will not be Michel, it will be something else, someone else. So yeah. So also when we speak of, the topic is true self and ego. Ego, well, everyone speak of it, we have the gross ego, and mainly people knows about the gross ego, when I have the arrogance, when I am very much a bad person, when I'm dominating, when I'm possessing, when I'm very selfish, So obviously that is clearly the gross ego, and you can have the ego of superiority, the ego of inferiority, and by the way, one of the most simple way to define ego is the absence of the true I. When I don't know who I am, and because I need an identity, I will create an identity which is not the true one, the right one, but still I will create one which suits me, which looks like correspond as much as possible about what I'm thinking about me, what about my value, my capacity, And then obviously we always say gender and religion and nationality, and so on and so forth. So, but I will say ego is the usurpation of my own true identity, because I don't know who I am. So in life, you have only two possibilities, like Shakespeare said, to be or not to be. Not to be is ego. To be is who I'm really I. So now, another question still, which is very important to answer, because we say true self, but um, I will say, but is it really true self exist? Is this a reality? Uh, because ego, yes, in fact, ego is when I do everything wrong, I say it's ego because it's false, it's bad, and that which is false can never do something right and good, globally speaking. But no, but true self, Okay, first of all, I will say, the word truth, true it's part of our vocabulary. It's our common word which are using that we are using in our everyday life. So it means there is something which is connected to this world, So that is one point. So truth exists somewhere, in some way. Secondly, I'm sure that if all of us, and me including, if we are here together, we are on the spiritual path, and each one according to his own process and effort and years of activity and effort on it. But why? First of all, is because, for me anyway, at some point, I wanted to become better. I wanted to be authentic to myself. I wanted to live my value as much as possible. I didn't want to betray my value. I wanted to improve myself, to become a better person, to rise, to grow, to mature, to have more wisdom, And so I feel, and when you go in that direction, you feel better, you have empowerment, you are more in self-control. And so, in fact, when we are in this process, we don't know, but in fact, is the process towards the discovering of who I am. It's on the process. Why? Why? Because when I'm working, for example, on being more positive, on my value, on my goodness, benevolent, well, I need to have internal work. I need to think a bit deeper. When you are negative, you don't need to think too much. You can think fast by being negative, but you don't have to reflect and think deeply about it. I mean, globally speaking. But for being good and positive, in our world today, where we can see there is a lot of pressure and law and trouble and obstacles and interference and things which never comes the way I want it. And when I meet so many different type of people, good and bad, with different attitude and expression and way of being, so yes, I need to reflect internally, or to manage, to relate, to deal with situation and people, to make sure that I will remain in my own value. And usually when you think positively and with value, you think more in a much low speed, and you start to understand that you start to really have the awareness and consciousness of your own inner world, because the process of thinking is inside. And so in this journey of thinking from the inside, I start to be connected, recognize myself, or to understand that, yes, I am consciousness, I'm conscious, and I'm not so much this gross body, and I'm something much more subtle, a being of thinking, a being of intelligence, a being of wisdom, a being of value, cooperation, solidarity, mercy, compassion, okay, all those, universal value. So, which is very much immaterial value, incorporeal value, which I don't see it with my eyes. We don't see a thought with my eyes. I don't see compassion with my eyes. The vibration of compassion, but I can feel it. I can know it is there. I can think in a compassionate way. So these will, and I am the creator of all of that. And so as I am the creator of all of it, which is immaterial and incorporeal, it means myself, the creator of my incorporeal activities, thinking, reflecting, understanding, realizing, expressing. It means I, the creator, I am also incorporeal, immaterial. And it's what, and then I can say this is the true self, this immaterial being, which is I, having the power of thinking, which has values and virtue. And the thing is, the goodness with when I enter into this process and when I process within with my value, with my positive thinking, it is empowering me. In fact, all of those values and virtue become my power, And in fact, when I am in my own true self, power is there for me to be the master of my own self, for not being affected and influenced by the outside, the external, by remaining in my own true identity, in my own integrity, in my own authenticity, for not being, again, affected, where I can tolerate everything and not let enter any foreign bodies which have negativity and something which is wrong for this pure self. Also, the thing is, when I am in this process, empowering myself and recognizing myself and being in the experience of this being of life, of energy, of conscious, this is life. And, there is nothing which is more precious than life. And I'm aware of it because it's all about me. And I'm aware of this life which I am. But when I am in this consciousness, awareness, experience, then I can see every living being in that same vision. They are life. They are precious. So I will never damage them. I will never interfere with them. I will never fight against them. I will do my best to be absolutely non-violent towards them, and even more, to protect them, to give something good, to help, to have solidarity, and more like that, and to even to rise others. The thing is, when I am in this own inner process of empowering myself, I recognize that in fact, this I we give, in the spirituality of Raja Yoga, teaching by Brahma Kumari, we give a name to this I, to this true I, is soul, Atma. And so the soul, I recognize when I am in the process of growing and maturing and developing, I understand more and more that there is no limitation for this I, for the soul. I can be on the unlimited. I can really grow and grow. Even the sportsman say, my limitation is the sky. But when I'm soul consciousness, I can say my limitation is beyond the sky, much more. I am on the unlimited. What does means to be on the unlimited? It means no matter situation, obstacles, trouble, people, friend, enemy, civil war, whatever you may think, I, the soul, I can tolerate, I can adjust, I can deal with that, I can find a solution, and I can be still happy on the midst of all the trouble which may happen around me, surrounding me, going towards me. I deeply believe. I may not be 100% successful, but I will say I'm not too bad, and I'm still happy with where I have reached at least, and it's better, obviously. And this is the point, because when I am on my own true self, I recognize all the paths I have already achieved, and this is already a support, a foundation for me, which I take support. And that is the importance of knowing yourself, because when you know yourself, you can do the proper work, the work of organizing the self, thinking properly, understanding which value to use in which circumstance, or to treat yourself, or to talk to yourself, or to have even compassion and mercy for yourself, because first of all, you have to use your own value for your own self, and take care of yourself. You have always to start with yourself. And this is the point. When you know yourself, you can do that. The thing is, when you don't know yourself, in fact, life disappears. The sense of life is precious. So when you see someone else, it's not so precious for you. It just, okay, something is more something than someone, in fact. And then if that the other one is giving you trouble, you are ready to give trouble. But when I am on my own true self, someone can give me trouble, and I know that I should never give back the trouble to someone which give me a trouble. Also because there is one specific reason, simple, many good reasons, and some of the reason is because whatever I will express, I will first experience it. If I am negative towards someone, I am the one first which is experiencing this negativity, which start to do some damaging work on my mind. And we know when we go through a process of inner negativity, it's the opposite of empowering yourself. We feel a bit weaker, unsatisfied, uneasy, not so much proud of our own self, and we don't make a show of our own self as well. So that is why when I am on my own true self, because I know it's my own inner work, it's all about me and about myself, then I will take the full responsibility for whatever is coming to me, happening to me, externally, inside as well, internally. I will never, the ego will do the opposite. The ego will say, you are the guilty one, you are the wrong one. And there is a good reason, is because the ego is, as I said, the absence of the true self, which means also that I don't really take support of my own value, quality, because I create a representation of myself which is limited, and obviously which is not the real me, the real I. So there is not really a power behind it. And so naturally, because if I say, for example, I'm French, well, I mean, it may means many things, but it's for me, for me, the true self, it doesn't mean nothing, in fact, because how can I take support from that? Not really, where, or I can, take energy and power and wisdom from that. Only obviously if I have French culture and the French philosopher and literature, and whatever it is, and still, it's still from the outside. It's not something I create from the inside. And so the ego will always look like towards the outside and take support from the outside and try to prove to the outside and dominate the outside, So, and because of that, the ego will never do something good for the other, because there's always a level of insecurity and fear inside because of lack of support. In the opposite, as I said, the true self, it can always grow. The beauty of the soul is that it can always learn something more. It can always gaining more power, more energy, either by his own pure activity, by his quality of his thinking, by the quality of relationship, by the help of God, the divine, in one way or the others. So when I understand, I trust, I believe that there is no limitation for my life, for me, the soul, and I can grow and grow and grow and grow. So then I'm not afraid of the others, and I'm ready to help the others. And as much as possible, because no matter how much someone can grow, I can always, with my own personal effort, grow higher than anyone else. I need to have that aim. I need to have the aim to help others and to go always faster than whatever help I give to the others. Because life is not a competition. In the true self, life is not a competition, but it's a race. Race means I'm ready to help everyone, but still I want to reach the first one. And I want to reach the first one with my own effort, not by going against someone. What can define, the society of today, the most best way is, one of the way, because obviously there is many ways, but is the word competition. We are in the world of competition in all aspects of life: science, sports, politics, even religion, ethnies, artists. Everyone wants to become better than the others and want to make shadows on the others, or destroy the others, or and because of competition, we may criticize others, and things like that. So, but the true self will never enter this world of competition. So also, one thing is, what is interesting in the process of life is, and I'm sure everyone has gone through that to some percentage, is the teenage crisis. When we are in between 12 to 18 years old, maybe, we are in the search of our own true identity, because in our childhood we have been influenced by our parents, by the society, by the school teacher, by the journalist, the television, all of that, everything which is surrounding us. But in fact, it has been an amalgam of everything else coming from the outside. And obviously, I've been trying to create my own personality, but still, if I was not successful, then I feel like something is missing in me. And so the teenage crisis is the point where I really want to know who I am. And that is why at that point, I become a rebel. I reject all the code of conduct of society. I can become marginal. There is many ways, or I can still look for something which suits me, or but if the thing is, and it can go up to the suicide of the person, because I don't find myself, and I'm just fed up with myself, and I don't know where to go, what to do with me, so yeah, and I don't want to be someone else. That's the point, is each one, and that is why we really need and want to know ourselves, because I want to be me, because me means to be unique, to be different, someone which can bring something very specific to society. It's only when I'm really me, myself, that I can give a contribution to life and society, which has a very deep value, in which I will enjoy and where people will take benefit of it. So, and that is why, when I am truly myself, I am in my own process of developing my own inner contentment. And because of that, I don't need so much the recognition of the others. I don't expect the respect. And whatever people think about me, judge me, see me, understand me, well, it is their own opinion, their own vision, their own idea, their own understanding. But it has nothing to do with me. Because when I am my own true self, as I say, it's an inner work of recognizing your own value, where you are at, where you have reached, how much you have developed and grown, how much you have achieved. So very conscious process where I really know myself, where I have reached, and obviously wherever I have reached for now, today, for me anyway, I know there is much more. But that is what makes the spiritual life interesting, because there is no ending to it. Or the end will come when the race will be finished, when all the runner will have reached their own destination, and each one, will reach their own destination according to their own effort, but will be totally different for each one. And so that is why I can remain totally content and happy, no matter what others think about me. And this is important because my inner contentment will create my inner peace, stability. And so and this allowing me to create the frame and the inner attitude for doing my own work with serenity, without having any influence of what is happening outside. I know, because yes, the true self, in fact, knows exactly what he needs, what has to be done, and also is very clear about what's going on outside. You can never play mischief with the true self. The true self knows exactly who is right, who is true, and who is false, and who is wrong. But the true self will never say any wrong word about it. He knows, and then he will process internally to make sure first not to be affected, not to be influenced, not to be negative, and then to respond in a smart manner, in a good manners. A true self will always have royal manners, good manners. He will always be polite, gentle, friendly, brotherly. Because anyway, when I recognize myself, as a soul, the goodness of it is I recognize every human being the same as me, a soul. No difference. No difference on this aspect. Then personality and effort and quality and way of life and aim and purpose. But anyway, so that is the extension of the soul, but the essence, and that is why spirituality is teaching me one of the most fundamental aspects. Always go back to the essence. Who I am, soul, a soul, a soul which has value, virtue, peace, goodness, benevolence, positivity. And I should never move away from that. And that is why when I know myself like that, then I will be committed to my value. No matter what, all my strengths, willpower, energy, determination will be to maintain my self-control so that I can maintain my value and express my value no matter what. And this is my authenticity, my integrity, my own goodness, my own pure karma. So the thing is, because I recognize myself as a soul, and I know, I'm sure everyone has his own process, internally to work, but still, globally speaking, when I recognize my own process within, I may understand the inner process of the others. I can understand the others. And this is one very important aspect, understanding the others. Because we are all different. When I am in my own true self, I can stop to have my own thought and start to listen and recognize and understand the way that the other is thinking and his way of life and his personality. And because of that, I can either tolerate, accept, respect, recognize, appreciate, relate according to the attitude of the other, but based on my own understanding. My understanding will allowing of the others, because I understand myself, I understand it's much easier to understand the others. Otherwise, I may have some mixed, because I may have some, when I really know myself and I work on myself, I create a level of inner satisfaction, contentment. When I reach a level of contentment, when I experience my own power, my own energy, my some achievement, then I will not have any desire from the outside, from people, situation, whatever it is. And because I don't have any desires, because I'm okay with me, then I will have no desire for the others, and so no expectation, and so I will see others are as they are, and not as I want them to be for me. Then this is creating my freedom, independence, no attachment, and because of that, I will always have the freedom to act the way I want to act, without being influenced by what others wants from me. You know, there is a very specific expression in spirituality, very powerful, uh, which says, don't ask. Don't ask nothing to anyone. You know, that's quite, I'm still working on it to understand properly what does it mean, you know. But um, but it's true that I'm using this mantra for my life, and it works properly because when I don't ask, I am free, and it's allowing me to focus on my own self, do whatever I need to do, and whatever the other wants to relate to me the way they want to relate to me, it's their freedom, and it's fine, you know. And and also when I know myself, I know that I have many possibility of effort I can express towards myself. So there's no limitation, you know. Each day you can organize your day in a new way, in a new organization each morning, because each morning is a new day, and because of what you have experienced yesterday, what has been working yesterday, you can make it better, you can refine it, you can make some extra whatever, and obviously you can have some extra activity and so on and so forth. So again, this aspect of no limitation for the true self. And when I enter in that dimension of no limitation, it's give a lot of security, a lot of optimism for my future, a lot of willpower to keep on and never stop, because I will say I have the curiosity to know and see where my own, to which extent my own true self can go. You know, because no, the field of possibility for the true self is open on the unlimited. And when you start to enter the field of unlimited, you never want to go back. And I will even say it's too late to go back. So no, you have no more choice, you know, it just go ahead. But go ahead, it means liberation, freedom, happiness, capacity, possibility, opportunity, you know, life. It's life, full life, total life, you know, you breathe life. And there is nothing more interesting than this. And you become the creator of your own self, of your own life. You become the actor. You bring yourself into the field of, in the theater of life, in the scenery, and you act the way you want. And then you enjoy it because it comes from you, you create it, you know, and you can see the impact on the other, you can see all the influence and all things move, you know, and day by day, recognize, that is important, recognize day by day the influence that your true self is creating on your surrounding, close surrounding, because true self systematically does that. So you have to recognize it, because your recognition of your influence, you know, on your surrounding will always tell you what's more and how you can do it more and better. And this is the point. You know, true self is, before, when I was in my own ego, in fact, I was in the influence of also of this external situation, because I was mainly on the reactivity. Not like this, not like that. Why is this one like this? This one is bad. This one give me sorrow. I will give back sorrow, you know, okay, and so on and so forth, you know. So I will be constantly in the reactivity and the influence. But now I have to give myself this unique chance. Instead of being influenced, I want to influence others with my values and virtue. I want to let the world rise. If I rise, if I grow, if I have something value, I want to share that with the others, because sharing will give me even more inner strength, will create even more empowering, more wisdom. So anyway, I can stop here, Margaret, and if there is any question also, because now 45 minutes is there, so maybe it's maybe time for question, or if you want, I can keep on.
Yes, there is a question.
Yeah.
What is intuition in decision making? And is it good to use intuition for decision making?
Yeah. Intuition is a quality, but as you say, you have to use it in a proper way. And usually for me, intuition, take roots from the soil of wisdom of your inner self. And more you become subtle, more you become yourself, more you refine yourself, more your intuition will work properly. And and I know there is two words very close, intuition and intention. So if you have the inner richness of values and virtue within the soul, you will always have pure good intention. And based on that, whatever can be your intuition, there is a great deal of chance it will be the right one. And a right intuition, it will be like it give you lack of vision of, yes, this is it. It must be that, you feel it, you must have the feeling of it must be good, it must be the right one, But again, it's based on the soil of your virtue and wisdom and your subtle stage of being soul conscious. Yeah, okay. As there is more question?
There are no more questions.
Okay.
Coming in at the moment. Would it be possible to have?
Yeah, okay. So one, yeah.
Okay.
Would
it be possible to have a meditation?
Yeah, okay, okay. So I will, okay, let's have a moment of meditation. Yeah. In silence, I start to be aware of my inner world, my thinking, my way of processing, my will, my intention. I start to be aware that I am a conscious being. I have consciousness. I am consciousness. And this consciousness of really truly who I am is totally pure. I am a pure soul, a pure being of light, which has the capacity to think and understand the self, life, others, and to understand what to do, how to do, to find solution for any aspect of life. The soul has always a solution. The soul is solution orientated, always looking for solution. There is always a solution. It can never be a problem, a trouble, a question without a solution. Because the soul is true, and truth means no question, no trouble, no problems. This is the proof that solution is a reality. And so, instead of being affected, influenced, feeling bad by something, someone, let me stabilize myself. Let me tolerate. Let me be peaceful. Let me think about the situation with peace and work and understand the situation and work on the solution, but with peace, without irritation, without worries, without fear, without anxiety. Always remember, I, the soul, I am a being of peace. It's my nature. I should never move away from my nature, no matter what. Because when I am soul conscious, it means I am always internalized my thinking. I'm connected with my own self. And I empower myself. This is one of the main work from peace to power I have to do for me. Peace allows me to build inner power. Power will allow me to preserve my peace. With peace and power, I will work on being constructive, never destructive. And knowing that there is no limit on my capacity to build, to be peaceful, powerful, constructive. And because of that, I have greatest hope for life, for the future. No matter what is happening today in the world, we know so many things, quite bad, doesn't matter, because I, the soul, I'm peaceful, I'm powerful, I'm positive, I'm optimistic for me, and I'm constructive, and I'm true. So nothing can destroy me. And that is why nothing can disturb me. I can watch life as a detached observer. It's event, they come and go. Life is passing by. Myself, I am a traveler. I am on the journey of life. I am an actor. Scene and scenery will change. But I, the soul, the eternal soul, imperishable soul, I will remain as I am, with my own true identity. And the process and the story of having a spiritual life is to build the self, to discover myself, to develop myself, to reach a point where I will not just say I am a soul, but where I can say which type of soul I am, which means with all the quality all the virtue, all the goodness, all the wisdom, all the pure karma, all the position which I have reached in the knowledge of Raj Yoga. We use a beautiful expression which says the soul has to be part of the rosary of victory. Means be a pearls, a gems in the necklace with the other gems, with the other soul. So I am totally unique, independent, free, but totally connected, totally social with others, living with others, and still having my own freedom, and still be committed with my social relationship. So just have totally optimisms for yourself, believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, God will help you systematically. Because when you believe in yourself, it creates a foundation, a stability, a desire, a pure desire, an optimisms. And then you can move ahead. And then you will always act according to your nature. Because if I believe in me, it means I believe in my nature. I believe in who I am, a soul which is pure, which has integrity, which has positivity. I deeply believe in it. And so I use it. If I believe, I use it. I use it with reason. One important advice, which I always give to myself, is I should never act without having a good reason to act that way. When more reason, more good reason for action, more power and motivation for doing the action. And I will give power. No, we need to give power, not just peace to our action, but power. Power will influence, but the power of peace. Power not to dominate, but power to give something best to the others. But that is possible when I deeply believe in the truth, when I'm committed to my own purity, to the wisdom of life. Then there will be power in my attitude, in my expression, but a power which is not disturbing, a power which gives benefit. In this power, it has to be peace. Something where others take benefit from you. And that is why the pure intention of giving something that others needs to receive. And that is why take your time before acting and understand what others are really needed. And also sometimes, it's true that people doesn't even know what they need, what they truly need. But when you are on your own true self, you know better than them. And it is also part of my responsibility to go into the process of making step by step so that the others can take those steps. So that is not too much difficult and troubling for the others, to go along the path. So it's good to be in the essence, but it's good also to give a little bit of expansion to the essence, to give more sense to your essence, to give more reasons to your essence, so that people may understand. may have some clarity. When something is clear, clear means light. When there is light, you can do it. You can see it. You can do it. It's not complicating. In fact, spiritual life has nothing to be complicating. It's just a question to understand properly. And just understand the most best simple things to start is to understand I am a being of virtue, and for no reason I should move away from it. And I give me all the possible reasons to keep on working on my virtues and value, to express it and to keep it inside. Because when you work on your values and virtue, it creates something very unique. It's open your conscious. When your conscious is open, it's where your intuition, your capacity to receive, to understand, to catch, to see, to perceive, to interpret in the proper way, to know exactly what you have to do. And you know it's absolutely, that is the way. Then you don't make mistake. So have the pure intention with your values and virtue. And then you will never make a mistake. And then obviously life, destiny, God, people, situation will cooperate with you to make you move forward. And recognize it, appreciate it. Recognize, don't take things for granted. Any little result, any little good things that you get in your life for yourself, appreciate it, recognize it. Say thanks to life, thanks to God, thanks to destiny, thanks to yourself, thanks to your effort. Because that appreciation and recognition will give you the sense of your own inner value and the value of life, and will give you the motivation to keep on, because you have been creating quality of thinking about something good, and you are recognizing the creation of your own identity as you move along, because your identity is in the process of creating by achieving, by adding something more, something better, something unique in yourself. Even a little details is not a details. It's a little shift that you create in your inner world, which opens something new, which open a new windows in which you can see something different, something new, something different, something towards you can go. So be absolutely committed to your value. And then you will see the change. Everything will change. This is my experience. I speak from my own experience. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, my brother being. I want to apologize actually for misinterpretation of your name earlier on. And all I can say is I'm a Broad Yorkshire lass, but I know it's not an excuse when you're introducing someone. But still, I wanted to ask you, what's life like in Serbia at the moment?
Repeat the question.
What is life like in Serbia at the moment?
Yeah, okay. Just now I am in Paris because since 2 months, but otherwise during the Corona, since 2 years, I was staying mainly in Serbia for the last 2 years. So the thing is, it's life is easy, in fact, much easier and much more simple than in France. In France, we have so many law, and law is changing from one day to the other days. You have to follow every day the new information. So it's a bit crazy, to be in France, frankly speaking. And also for vaccination and sanitary vaccination, vaccination pass and things like that. But in Serbia, nothing about like that. Is once you are there, well, you just carry the mask, in the shop, in the bus, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing else, and life is going on, and no one will control you, no one will asking you anything, and yeah, and people enjoy their life.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's beautiful to know. People are saying, beautiful talk, beautiful session, lovely, wonderful, peaceful. So these are all the virtues that you're collecting.
Okay,
And
that's
I'd
great.
like to say thank you. Magical and empowering words, Mercy, is what's been said.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us this evening.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it was my pleasure, and thanks again for invitation me. So I'm really happy about it. Yeah.